Good morning. This is Dr. Matthew Dunn, host of The Future of Email Marketing. And my guest for a great conversation today is Naresh Vissa, founder, CEO of Krish Media and Marketing, and a super experienced marketer, as well as a multiple time best-selling author. Naresh, such a pleasure to have you aboard and to connect with you. Welcome.
Thanks so much, Matthew. And I'm looking forward to talking about one of my favorite topics, which is email marketing,
Why? Why is it your favorite?
because without email marketing, marketing is, I don't want to say impossible, but it is a lot tougher. Email
Yeah.
marketing makes marketing easier. And you've heard of the 80-20 rule. I'm sure many of your listeners have. 80% of your business comes from 20% of your clients.
Uh-huh.
You'll be able to find out who those 20% are through email marketing. It's a
Oh,
good
wow.
filter.
That's
Yeah,
good.
it's a very good filter, and it is still king. People thought in 2015 or so, oh, email's dead. People aren't using email anymore.
Mm-hmm.
No, email. There are other ways to market. Don't get me wrong. There's
Yeah.
still 20%, right? 20% of marketing can be done in other ways, and you can tap into those ways. But email marketing is still king. It saves so much money. It's the way to go.
It's also one of the, if not the only digital channel that doesn't have someone in the way saying, pay me.
Yes.
It's a big
Well,
deal.
well, that's the point of email marketing. It's you own
Yeah.
your email list. The
Yeah.
email list is the most important asset a marketer can build, whether you're a restaurant or a brick and mortar business or you're a corporation.
Mm-hmm.
The email list is something that you own.
It's an
Now,
actual
if
asset.
Mailchimp or iContact, if they shut down, if your list disappears, and unfortunately you don't own it anymore, but for the most part, you own it, and there are entire businesses built around that email list, selling
Yeah.
that email list, marketing to that email list. When I say selling it, I've helped sell multiple businesses largely because of that email list.
Oh, wow. Yeah. That's a great way to frame the value of it. I mean, one of the conundrums of email and where it fits in the digital marketing space. One of the things that got me interested to have these conversations about the future of it is like email's been around a long time. It doesn't look as sizzly and high tech, although there's an astonishing technology stack making it all work, as the flavor of the month apps or messaging channels or whatever else. But it's the one that's an asset. The list is an asset. The relationship you can build is an asset, and it's not someone else's asset. So to your point, that's from your 50 Shades of Marketing book, correct?
Right. So
You
I'm the
just said that.
author. Yep, I'm the author of the book 50 Shades of Marketing, Whip Your
Uh,
Business into Shape and Dominate Your Competition. In chapter 2 of my book, I tried to order my chapters based on importance.
yeah.
So chapter 1 is all about direct marketing and the concept of what is direct marketing, which I think is the most important concept you can learn in marketing. But then you tie that into email. Chapter 2 is called Why the Email List is the Most Important Asset a Marketer Can Build. And direct marketing ties into email because when you send out an email, now you're directly marketing to people. You have their information. They've already come in through some kind of funnel. So you have you have the lead information. And email marketing is the fastest, cheapest, and easiest way to engage with your audience. It's like you brought up earlier, there's no middleman who you're paying a ton of money to. You might have to pay a couple of $100 if you have a huge
Yeah.
email
Yeah.
list. We're
Huge
talking
list. Yeah.
100,000 plus, or maybe even 50,000 plus, but it's worth it to pay that $100, $150 a month to manage that list because you'll be able to monetize that list. That's a lot of followers who you've built up if you have 50,000 people.
That's a lot.
So
Yeah, that's a big list. Now you spent some time. I read your bio on LinkedIn. Whoa, among other places, Stansberry and Associates slash Agora Financial, and I happen to know a little bit about it. And I went, wow, those guys play at a big scale, really big scale.
that's where I learned it all.
Yeah,
When I
yeah,
say learn it all, I mean my first job was as a 16-year-old, as soon as I could drive,
uh-huh.
working at a marketing company. And that's where I was introduced to marketing, not online and digital, but just marketing in general.
Yeah,
And the biggest takeaway that I got there was how to prospect. So how to find people's information, how to find people at companies or just people on the internet who we needed to target, who we needed to sell to, and finding their information, their name, their first name, last name, phone number, email address, where they work, their website. That was such an important skill to learn, because you'll be surprised, most people don't even know how to do that, how to find somebody to contact.
Right.
And so that was as a 16-year-old. I got that experience.
Wow.
And you fast forward, when I was right out of graduate school, actually, while I was still in graduate school, Stansberry hired me as an independent contractor for a side project, which turned into a division for the company. And I graduated from graduate school, moved to Baltimore, where they're headquartered, Agora Publishing in Stansberry, and took over that division and grew it. And that's where I learned. I took what I learned when I was 16 and I expanded on it and learned
Yeah.
all about email marketing, because email marketing, at least back then, this was 2011, 2012, 2013,
Mhm.
email marketing was king.
Yeah.
It was king, and it still is king for them.
Ah,
So I got to learn the ins and outs of the business, not just financial publishing, but of online and digital marketing, e-commerce, just online and digital in general, technology. That's where I was able to learn, because schools don't teach. I had
I was
just
going to ask
graduated.
you.
I
Yeah.
had just graduated with a graduate business degree
From
from
Duke.
one of the
That's a heck of a
business, yeah,
school.
yeah, from one of the best business schools in the world.
Yeah.
And you didn't learn any of this stuff because they didn't know. The professors got their marketing PhDs pre-internet.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so when your research is heavily based on pre-internet ideas, you're
Rules
gonna
may have
miss out on a
changed.
lot of things. Yeah, yeah. And that was one of the inspirations to write my book, 50 Shades of Marketing. It
Yeah.
is nowadays in leading business schools, you have all these well-known marketing professors who got their degrees pre-internet. Well, 50 Shades of Marketing talks about principles, strategies, techniques, resources that you need to be a good marketer in the age of the internet. And
Yeah.
the pandemic comes in. My prediction in the book was that the next recession that would come in, the book came out in 2015. And my
Okay.
prediction was the next recession that would come would force people to work from home, would force companies to hire more independent contractors,
Yeah.
outsource overseas, would force businesses to digitize and to go online and digital. And
Points to you.
all that happened due pandemic or not. I think it was bound to happen.
Yeah. Yeah. It's accelerated, perhaps.
Yes. Yep,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah. It's been quite something to watch in the last year. Sort of everyone jumping way ahead, and for those of us who, I mean, I've been telecommuting in one way, shape, or form for 20 years. So I was like, yeah, welcome to my world, guys. But it's a
Yep.
big adjustment, and we're not going
For
back.
so I'm also the host of a podcast called The Work From Home Show. It's
Yeah. Oh, are you really?
workfromhomeshow.com. Yeah. Yep. And we got started as soon as the first lockdown happened in
Mm-hmm.
mid-March of 2020. One of our directors at Krish Media and Marketing, the company that I run, he handles our web stuff and our podcasts, a lot of our podcast editing and production. I said, look, we got to come out with this podcast because this pandemic,
Yeah.
it's not going away.
Yeah.
And it's going to be here for many years to come, and work from home is going to become a thing, not permanent, not 100% work from home.
Yeah. I was going to ask you what you
We're
think.
going to see a huge segment of the worldwide population shift from office to work from home. And I still do think the office has its place, not because people are more productive in the office, because they're not. I think the office has its place because large corporations, they have cultures that they need to keep. They, as sad as it sounds, and look, I worked in corporate. I worked for a large Wall Street bank. I worked for, like I said, Stansberry, Agora, which is more progressive, but it's still considered a corporate environment. And the corporations, they like to control their people. They like to
Mhm.
control their employees. There's not much autonomy. They want their people, especially if you don't work in tech or in IT. They want their people in the office so they can see what they're doing. They want to control essentially their lives. And So there, that's not going to change. The pandemic has disrupted that for 2 years, but I think you're going to see the large corporations tell their workers, "Hey, you know what? You got to come back into the office."
Hmm.
Especially if they own the real estate, they're going to say you got to come back in.
And
So
if they don't, that's an interesting thesis, and I'm just seizing on it. If they don't, if it's if it's work from home some part of the time, it's going to be keystroke loggers, monitors. Like just you can have just as much sense of what someone's getting done, whether they happen to be sitting.
it's a
Uh,
waste of time to me. I mean, it's a waste of time and energy if you're going to micromanage your employees
yeah,
like that and get
yeah,
keyloggers and
yeah.
see
Couldn't agree
track
more.
their time. It's what's the point,
Yeah,
like the goal is to get the job done and to produce results, and whether
yeah,
you do it in the middle of the night, whether you're working 1 hour a day or
yeah,
10 hours a day, the goal is to get the work done.
yeah.
And the work essentially becomes managing other people and what they're doing on their computer. And what kind of job is that? I mean, that's a job that needs to be gotten rid of. So
The the
initially I was very bullish. I was like,
were you?
this work from home is going to become permanent. But now that I'm learning that the office, the companies are, I think the government has become big brother. The medical industry has become big brother, and corporations, big tech, I think have become big brother as well. And so I don't think work from home is going to become is going to become ubiquitous exercise.
Yeah, I'm curious because and I don't disagree with you, by the way, but when you put on your CEO, running a company hat,
Yep.
and you're trying to figure out how to make the business go and make the business effective, and keep employees effective at what they do, is like, do you find yourself looking at it through a different lens when you're making those decisions than the sort of, not theoretical, but the author's view of it, if you will?
Well, common sense tells you work from home so we can stop paying all this money in leases and
Yeah,
in rents.
yeah,
So that's why I say the small businesses, I think they will let their people work from home because it's a smaller group, it's more intimate. You don't get lost in the shuffle. I've worked at these large corporations where you're literally another number, and there
yeah,
are times when you don't even show up to work and people won't notice. So
yeah.
I've worked at companies like that, and so those are the companies that are going to ask their people to come back into the office.
Hmm.
Um, and I do think they're also the companies where eventually they do find out if you don't show up to work. They do
Hmm.
find out, and even if you get your work done at home, it becomes an issue because there's so little work to be done at these huge, large companies, and you don't have space to operate because they're so big. I mean, you have no voice, you have no autonomy or independence, and so your manager essentially and we talk about this on the work from home show, that your manager becomes so bored that they want to manage you, they want to control you, they want to
Hmm.
control your life. And look,
Hmm.
that's why I went out, started my own business, did my own thing,
I was going to ask about that.
because I'm not very good with other people or other things controlling me or my schedule or my life. I'm not.
Hmm.
And look, there are many people who thrive. I have family members who cannot operate without being controlled, without
Yeah.
being fed, turning on
Do
the
this.
news
Do
and
this. Do
being
this.
fed, anything. They need to believe anything that they're told, and they need to be told what to do. And most people, quite frankly, are actually like that. Um, I'm I'm just not, for whatever
Yeah,
reason.
that's I mean that's part of that's part of the foundation I'd expect from an entrepreneur, that sort of, look, I need to do this my way, my own pace. The worst thing in the world is to get told slow down, right? Or do it this way when you know this way is not necessarily effective. Let me throw a different one at you and just get your reaction to it, though. There's a book I ran across, seriously, I think 20 years ago, The Social Life of Information, Paul Duguid and John Seeley Brown, written before Facebook existed. And it was pretty fascinating because they delved in and did hard research to back a surprise thesis that socializing is perhaps the most effective way that we share, build, learn from each other and with each other. And I find myself thinking that there's going to be companies that say, we need some time where you're as live and connected with each other as possible, not for the purpose of control structure, but to enable the riff and the collaboration that's can be harder when you're mediated, when you're physically separated. Any thoughts about that?
Yeah, so there are two different thoughts here, and I've look. I remember working on team projects, group projects, and you have that riff, and the end result is ends up being really good. And what I learned in that experience is you don't need because it can cause a lot of drama, it can cause a lot of problems because at the
Mm-hmm.
end of the day, you are butting heads with people in
Mm-hmm.
order to reach an overarching goal. What I learned is um, as a hiring manager, you should hire good quality talent. And that way, people trust each other and their abilities. So
Mm-hmm.
if you're working on a project, I'm actually the type of guy who will go ahead, run with the project. I don't need help with it. If I need help with it, I'll hire my own people. And then I'll hand it off to somebody, a team member, and say, hey, here's what we have. You take it from here. And they tweak it and they mess with it and they play with it and they improve it and they make it better.
Mm-hmm.
And there is no riffraff butting heads in that case. It's like, okay, the final product's a final product. It's gone through many eyes, different sets of people. And this is a way that it's been done. I feel like that's a much better process than putting five people in a room together and having them. It's called a war room. They call it a war room. That's
Yeah.
what companies
Yeah.
call it because it does become a war room.
Right.
And then it's kind of like a relationship. Like once you just give up, you just shut your mouth and you just don't even care. You stop talking and that's where things can get sour and go bad. So the way my company is set up is I let people do what they do best. I don't
Mm-hmm.
ask my designers to be copywriters. I don't ask my copywriters to be web developers. I don't ask my web developers to do SEO.
Mm-hmm.
Um, you let people do what they do best and you trust that they're going to do a good job. And that's for anything. I also run a startup real estate investment firm. And I'm not, I only start butting heads when stuff isn't getting done and when I have to micromanage. The goal of an entrepreneur, of a business owner, is to start something that generates cash flow so you can make money, so you have freedom to do whatever the heck you want. And
Mm.
one thing I didn't mention is I'm a stay-at-home dad. My son's sleeping right now in
Wow.
in the room. He's a year and a half, and I'm able to do this because I don't have to go into the office. I
Yeah.
don't have to go in somewhere where someone's overlooking my shoulder.
Yeah.
And look, I have some help. My wife's off every other week. We have a nanny who comes in 5 to 10 hours a week.
Mm-hmm.
So I've got some. I mean, you have to. I mean, you need, and it's also good for you to bring in again that outside third party who's going to do things that you're not good at, who's going to tweak things here and there.
Mm-hmm.
But going back to the idea of collaboration, I wouldn't have this much amount of freedom and autonomy and the ability to take care of my son, 21, 22 hours a day if I didn't have this mindset. If I was on Zoom calls just arguing all day with my clients and with the people who work at Krish Capital and Krish Media and Marketing, I wouldn't get anything done of value.
Hmm. Hmm. Wow. Wow. It's a you make a good case for it. I don't think it's everybody, and I think you said the same thing. Like you got friends, relatives who prefer or thrive under structure, under this is what's next, because it takes drive and it takes some energy to go ahead and do the next thing when it's not dictated, right? You kind of figure it out yourself, or make it up, or see the opportunity, or and say, okay, that's worth extra time, I'll go for it. Versus, here's the form, fill in the next 3 pages of the form.
Yeah.
Entrepreneurs don't like filling in forms, I suspect. Huh. Um, let's dot this back to email just because we got more people working from home. We got an even more digital and mediated existence, right? We're now putting our home life and our work life in our own spaces more and more, communicating with each other, working with each other more via digital channels, whether it's live video conference like this, or email, or text, or apps, or fill in the blanks, like the infinite number of digital tools we've got to work with. I think there was a point in time where email was sort of getting poo-pooed because it was because it wasn't the flavor of the month, if nothing else, and because it's been around for so long. But I know email volumes have gone up since the pandemic hit, and I suspect that's going to continue to be true. That's still going to be like the home address, the reliable channel, the one way you know you can get to people. Comments or thoughts?
Look, text message is not a replacement for email. Text message is more direct. The problem with text message is uh, it's harder to go back and check the text message. They're more real time. Whereas emails, you can hit unread, go back, check
Mm-hmm.
out the emails,
Yeah. Yeah.
and respond to them. And also, you're in front of a computer a lot of the time, responding to emails. I mean, you could be on your phone, but you could always go back. Text messages, they come in, you read it, and then they essentially go away.
Yeah.
You move on with life, you forget about it. So email marketing is still, I think, the key. It's not the secret sauce 100%, but like I said, 80% I think is going to come through email marketing. And there's nothing wrong with sending out email messages, more and more messages. Just grow that email list, because when you grow that email list, you are capturing your traffic, people who are interested in who you are, what you do, and you can then monetize through advertising, or you can just build up an email list,
Mm-hmm.
and it can be valued because an email list is tangible and quantifiable. It is essentially a digital physical asset. That's what it is. You own it. So the ROI on your email list is higher than any social media. And I talk about this in my book, 50 Shades of Marketing. I say, look, Facebook can filter statuses. This was in 2015. It can filter statuses at any day moment. They can just go ahead and say, hey, you know what? We don't like you. We're just going to shut down your Facebook page. Facebook can do that. And guess what happened in 2020, 2021? That's exactly what they did. If Facebook did not agree with your political views, if they did not agree with what you may have said, you got deleted. And there are people like former President Trump who had hundreds of millions of social media followers that he built up, and they were deleted with just a stroke of a button. Just completely gone, deleted. That's hundreds of millions of dollars in money and revenue that he could have monetized. Not that he would, but let's say donations, whatever. That's gone. And I think about that as a business owner. If that happened to you, and we work with clients who that happened to, because we work a lot in the podcasting space, and many of our clients may have said something political on their podcast. I mean, it's essentially talk radio. Like, there's nothing wrong with saying something political. Well, they said something political, boom, flagged by YouTube, flagged by Facebook, suspended by Twitter. It's really ridiculous, but that's another story. But with that being said, your mailing list, it's harder to get flagged because, to my knowledge, the ESP companies, they have not taken a political stance. And if you want to send out a note, send out a note. Just don't be too scammy. Don't be too spammy.
You're on some rich ground here. Let me throw a couple things at you that fit right into this discussion. I was involved in a conversation a couple months ago, I think, on the Only Influencers list, which is email marketers group, and we were batting around an announcement that came out of MailChimp about their terms of service, and I want to say this is 3 months ago, give or take. And MailChimp went to the trouble of announcing an addition to their terms of service that said, essentially, we reserve the right to turn off your send if we disagree with the content. They put a foot in a private business. It's in their control. But they put a foot over into that domain of saying, we don't agree to be a common carrier and let anything go. We, like the examples you gave of Facebook and Twitter, we reserve the right to say, we don't think that's okay. No more send. Comments?
Look, they're private businesses. They can do whatever they want. As a business owner like you and me, the way that you work around this, MailChimp sends out a note like that. The first thing I would do is download that email list, export it into a spreadsheet, and continue with MailChimp. Continue to do what I'm doing. And if they ban me or if they flag me, it's time to go to an alternative. And there are
Right.
many, many alternatives out there.
Yes.
Unfortunately,
Yeah.
there are not that many alternatives when it comes to Twitter or Facebook
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
Google.
Yeah.
They have monopolies in their industry.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, it really is a monopoly because Twitter is a very different platform than Facebook, which is
Yeah.
a very different platform than YouTube, which is very different from a Google search engine. So they do have now it's just, oh, Google it, you know?
Yeah.
Well, if Google does something to the search results, you're stuck.
You don't
They're
exist.
all alternatives,
Yeah.
but
Nobody uses them.
exactly.
Yeah. 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 And your point, I think we're in agreement here. In the world of email, which is, and it's a bit distinctive about email.
Yeah.
It's relatively easy to say, I'll take my email, I'll get my email activity done a different way, right? Like if business X says we don't want to send those kind of messages on your behalf, say no problem, we'll go find someone else. There are hundreds of email platforms, hundreds, and none of them own the channel. Here's a concern I've got in the email space specifically. And sometimes I feel like the curmudgeon on this one. Uh, Google has acquired considerable market share in the inbox with Gmail and G Suite, and it's a terrific email client. I use G Suite because I think it's a terrific email client. They're pushing an interactive email technical standard called AMP for email, and I'm bothered by the email marketing community saying this is a good thing. Like they already ran off with the web, basically, which used to be kind of free range. And I don't want to see the same thing happen to email. Because if Google said message X can't get through to your Gmail inbox, you don't actually have a choice to pick up your Gmail accounts and mail them a different way.
Yeah.
No, don't like proprietary standards. Maybe I'm old fashioned. I don't know. I love the free range thing and the ownership thing, right? You got to earn that relationship with your email list. I'm in control of saying I don't want to hear from you anymore. So it really becomes a relationship asset that, as you pointed out, is a big business asset as well. And I'm hard pressed to think of other digital channels where that's still true.
Yeah, well, look, it's very complicated because now big tech and the corporations and companies are getting involved politically, and the problem I have is if I'm talking to you right now on Zoom, okay,
Mm-hmm.
and if I say something that Zoom
Good
doesn't
example.
like,
Yeah, good
they could
example.
jump in to our conversation and say, "Hey, this conversation's over.
Right, right.
You're not allowed to post it, Matthew. You're not allowed to post this on YouTube or whatever, and the recording is going to be deleted."
Mm-hmm.
They could easily do that, but they don't, right?
For now.
For now, and look, there are certain things that if you're if you're plotting something illegal, if you're if we're having a meeting about masterminding something bad,
Mm-hmm.
it makes sense, right? But if you're going to post an article to the New York Post, which happened to me, I posted an article from the New York Post, and Facebook put me in Facebook timeout because they said this is a violation of privacy
Really?
because you
Wow.
posted it, and the article was it covered it published like a neighborhood, the name of a neighborhood,
Mm-hmm.
and look, to be quite frank, I didn't even read the entire. I read like the first two paragraphs maybe,
Right.
and that's what I'm saying, where they're picking and targeting certain viewpoints, certain political views, and trying to cancel them, trying to delete them. And
Hmm.
it's as I mentioned, the private businesses, they can do whatever they want, but you as a business, look, just stick to this rule: stay out of politics. Now, then the question is, well, what if that is your business? So like
Yep.
Stansberry Agora,
Yeah.
they use politics to market and promote their products.
Yep.
So then what do? You're just going to have to see what, well, they created their own server. So they don't use MailChimp or they say, screw that. This was years and years ago. They said,
Yeah.
screw this. We're just going to create our own email
Yeah.
service provider.
Yeah.
We're going to create our own systems and we're going to run with it.
Oh, interesting. Interesting.
Yeah.
And because you're operating on a set of defined open standards, you're actually free to do that.
Yes.
Not a cheap investment, but you're free to do that.
Exactly. Yep.
Yeah. Huh. Interesting. Where you can't say, I'm going to make my own Twitter.
Correct.
I mean, I could make a client where you and I could send short messages to each other, but it'd be a short conversation because it's just the two of us, and it wouldn't be that sort of quasi-public sphere that Twitter managed to make themselves into over years.
Yep.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. We're going to have to ask some profound questions about about the public square, the public forum, common carriage, and the responsibility of this century's early monopolies. And you've mentioned a number of them. I suspect we'll end up dragging Amazon into that conversation as well because of their dominance of some kinds of commerce, and certainly their footprint in the infrastructure, in the cloud infrastructure. AWS runs a lot of stuff, and this is new territory for us, right? Private businesses gaining this degree of influence we haven't grappled with recently. Standard Oil, 100 years ago, is probably the closest example.
Yeah.
And we dealt with that the way we dealt with it then. How are we going to deal with these? I don't know. And as one of the reasons that I'm continuing to be intrigued by emails, it's this funny outlier. It's like, yeah, we're just going to keep going our own way. It's kind of anybody can drive on the road version of digital that hasn't gotten dominated. It hasn't gotten owned by one company. It's hard to censor email because anybody can jump over and make their own server. Stansberry did.
Yep.
Huh. Interesting. Where do you see SEO? Because I know you've got considerable expertise in that. Search engine optimization and that getting found on what used to be the free range of the web, and email, like very different dynamics, but you have to grapple with both as a business owner.
Yeah, well, look, in the case of search engine optimization, there are many things you can do to improve your SEO without hiring an SEO team or an SEO expert. And so what I'm saying, look, SEO can be very, very costly. We're talking thousands of dollars per month, thousands upon thousands of dollars, in some cases, tens of thousands of dollars per month. I like organic SEO. So we offer a service at Christian Media and Marketing called Online PR. And online PR is focusing on online media, getting you publicity through online media, whether it's through podcasts like this, video interviews, online print media. So we run campaigns and we get people online PR, and that improves our SEO greatly, getting those hit, because you have other people doing the SEO free of charge for you. So for example,
I see.
What you're going to be doing is you're going to be writing some show notes. You're going to write my name. You're going to link back to my website, and you probably have a lot of authority. You meaning your website where this is going to go on is going to have a lot of authorities. So that's doing SEO for us. So people type in my name or my company's name, and they'll be able to see all the good stuff that comes out.
Right.
So I highly recommend that before moving into the more expensive SEO, because look, it can get tricky, and it's a contract type of position.
It's a black art is what it is.
Yeah, exactly. So if any of your listeners have questions, check out our website, Krish Media and Marketing. That's KRISH Media Marketing. Krish Media Marketing. Krish Media Marketing. There's no and in between. Krish.
Well, and am I hearing you correctly? In you sort of stated a thesis there that said that quality content is one of your best SEO tactics.
Yep, absolutely. And if you can get other people to write that content for you, even better.
Yeah, even better. Even better. That's good advice. And I think it's true of email as well. Honestly, like quality content keeps people in your list. Spamming them to death with with meaningless drivel, they'll unsubscribe and go away. Like I said earlier, you've got to earn that asset and keep earning that asset in the long run.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah. We should probably wrap because you're a stay-at-home dad and a busy guy with a couple of companies to run. But any parting advice, especially for someone listening who's saying, I'm trying to be more effective with my email marketing, what would you tell them to do?
Take email marketing seriously. It's something you need to do. So I highly, highly recommend that you do it. Check out, I want to offer my book, 50 Shades of Marketing, Whip Your Business into Shape and Dominate Your Competition. I want to, free of charge, go to my website, nareshvissa.com, get on my mailing list and contact me through the site. And I will send you a free copy of 50 Shades of Marketing. And if there's one chapter you're going to read or listen to, if I send you the audiobook, it's chapter 2, why the email list is the most important asset a marketer can build. That has everything you need to know about email marketing. So
terrific.
Take it seriously, build that email list.
I will make sure we put a hyperlink on this episode when it goes up on the site as well. Well, pleasant and wide-ranging conversation. It's always a privilege to learn from someone with this kind of experience, and you're right in the middle of it now, running your companies as well. So you're not just talking theory from 20 years ago either. And I want to thank you for the time as well.
Thank you.
We just pinged
so
you
much
on LinkedIn. So we'll wrap up. My guest once again was Naresh Vissa, Krish Media and Marketing, Krish Investing as well, I think you said, yes?
Krish Capital, yeah.
Krish Capital. And then you search under Naresh Vissa on, I suspect, on Amazon for the 2 books. Do you thinking about another book maybe?
Absolutely. Already working on
it.
Books.
Wow.
Yeah.
I'll look forward to it. I've got to get these 2. Thanks so much for the time, Naresh. And we'll get this whipped into shape and get the video back in your hands as soon as we can.
All right. Thank you so much. Have a good one.
All right. You as well.